Thank you for welcoming me to the Cloudflare offices. I appreciate it. All right, so to get started, I'm going to be talking about Telescope. Back in October, September of this past year, we started a project to build a cross-browser testing agent that was released right before Performance.now, which is a yearly performance conference that lots of folks will talk about and and present for different web performance portions. It's been going around for I think about 15 years, and if you can make it, highly recommend it. But to get back to Telescope, we released it last year. We've been building it consistently ever since. We do have my team is actually has at least one person dedicated to it at all times, so it's not going to be stuffed in a corner and mothballed. Has anybody used, I will keep this short, but has anybody used WebPageTest? So quite a few of you. WebPageTest has, I would say, lackluster support in the last like 5 or 6 years. And we're hoping to step into that gap and be more spiritual descendant of that sort of open source, community-driven testing. All right, I do want to start with, continue with a little bit of the history of the internet in a very short nutshell. Mosaic, back in, I want to say 93, was released as the first visual web browser, soon followed with IE. I don't know if IE came out as IE1 or IE3 or IE5. I remember IE5 and 6 for the decades that I had to deal with it, and I still think about that in my dreams. If you haven't used it, I highly recommend going back and seeing how it works for you. Basically, first browser wars were really between Netscape and IE. Microsoft ruled the world. Microsoft won that handily. By late 90s, early 2000s, Microsoft had a 95% market share for the browsers. They were taken to monopoly court, and soon after, their shares were slightly smaller. This doesn't have a couple of really big pieces. Hopefully you can all read this. I'm not going to read directly off of it, but a couple of major developments in web development. In 2007, we got jQuery, which made cross-browser development much easier. In 2006, we got console.log, which made debugging a little bit easier. No more alerts, no more opening a window, writing to the document, checking to see what that looked like, going back, making changes, refreshing, and redeploying every time you had a change. Angular came out in 2010. React, which I know as web performance advocates and acolytes we love, came out in 2013. Vue followed the year after in 2014. Svelte in 2016, and then finally, and I'll touch on Astro towards the end, but Astro came out in 2021. Continuing on, to go back to 2009, you can see some of the stats. These were pulled off StatCounter. They don't have any data before 2009, so that's as far back as they go. That's as far back as I really took the effort to get some data for. But there was no mobile usage really. The iPhone, excuse me, the iPhone came out, I want to say, in 2007, 2008. Not really. We hadn't made the transition to mobile networks being fast enough to be usable for general browsing. We don't have that problem so much anymore, but at the time it was definitely a bottleneck. In 2008, late 2008, early 2009, WebPageTest actually was released as open source. Pat Meehan put it together originally at AOL to focus on Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer, being the dominant browser, had the worst development tools available to you. Firefox had things like Firebug and YSlow, and you could get a lot of information about what was happening to your site and why things were slow just by using the browser, kind of manually going through and doing some testing. But Internet Explorer did not have that. Pat came in, built out WebPageTest, and you could now actually automate getting some of that metric information out. So moving to roughly today, this is actually late last year, but mobile now is more than half of the internet traffic. We do have, it's very fragmented. We have people that are on very fast 5G networks that are mostly reliable. Then we also have people that are in more remote areas running on $100 Android devices with essentially 2G network. So we have to hopefully cater to all of those users and provide a fast, good experience on the web. Which brings us to the question of what are we doing here? I want to, again, introduce Telescope. It is Cloudflare's fully supported, community-driven cross-browser test agent, and soon we will actually have a UI with it. But right now it is CLI only, and we are looking to build it out. Now, a couple of details going forward. I touched on this at the very beginning for why now. Basically, we've seen support for cross-browser testing dwindle in the past years, and we see a huge need for it now that still the internet traffic is very bifurcated between very fast speeds and honestly very low, less accessible areas. So being able to, again, provide a good experience means it will be more money in your pocket if you're a company, or say at Etsy selling, I forget what you sell, wallets, leatherwork, you know. So lots of good things that happen with good web performance. Everybody knows that here, hopefully. But also the cross-browser portion, browsers do perform differently. Some of them do anything from JSON parsing slightly differently, better, faster, or less memory, and some of them render in slightly different ways. And they shift a little bit differently. They have different CSS engines, etc. So having a full picture is important to get a full idea of what you're doing. So I'm going to jump into the quick start. We're going to go through some options very quickly, and then I'll do a quick demo of what we've built, and then what we are looking to build. So quick start, pretty much clone it, go to the directory, build it, and then you can run your first test. The URL is the only required parameter. Chrome is the default browser, and you can literally do one line with about probably 30 characters, and you'll get your first test and first test results. It does take a few minutes the first time to load up. It's got to download and install a bunch of browsers and playwright and whatnot. So moving into the options, these are going to be pretty self-explanatory with the names of them, hopefully. So if it's not clear, please do let me know. But for disabling JavaScript, it's -- disable JS. This is actually something that, has anybody actually gone to a site and disabled their JavaScript? You're better people than I. I use JavaScript for everything. So, but this does give a good sense of what the core HTML and what the core performance at the bare minimum will be. It's good to obviously test that. When we come to another option for viewport and film strip customization, film strips basically X number per second is the value that you're going to give. But when you're looking at viewport changes for height and width, you can test your media queries, make sure that things are being shown correctly. At the end, you get a screenshot. So if you save those, you can look over time or do side-by-side comparisons about whether or not they are looking like they should. Cookies and headers, authentication, cookies, whatever you might want. That's honestly pretty standard stuff. The network throttling, similarly to what I was talking about earlier, people are not all on 5G or cable. Some of us, I don't think anybody's on dial-up anymore, hopefully not, but sometimes we do see that kind of speed on, like, I think it's New York Link is the free city Wi-Fi around the entire, at least the Manhattan, island of Manhattan. It's incredibly slow. So it's good to, again, good to get some sense of how bad it can be. CPU throttling, kind of similarly, not everybody is running on an iPhone 17, 18, or a Galaxy S24. I actually forget what the newest ones are, but they are, a lot of the folks not in the US are running on, again, $150 Android devices that don't have anywhere near the processing power, memory, or just capability that we are used to. Browser flags and overrides. This one can get a little bit wonky, and you would need to go and delve a little bit further into what the browser flags mean for Chrome or for Firefox. These are going to be passed basically directly into Playwright, and Playwright will handle passing those into the browser. Domain blocking, this is actually going to be good to block your ads. Apparently very few people like ads. I do. I like, if I want to buy a couch, I want to buy a couch. So with this, it's, again, good to see whether or not a third party is going to be slowing you down or not. This is actually relatively new. This is going to be hopefully merged in by next Friday. We have added the ability to specify a device type from the list of Playwright supported devices. I think it's in the close to 100 different devices that have a set of default properties that are anything from like the default browser type to the engine to the viewport, and all you have to do is pass in the value. Playwright knows how to use that device to actually run the test with those parameters. We do have height and width. If you do provide those, it will override the defaults of the device type. So that's just the route we're taking more generally. If you specify something, you know what you want to do, maybe more than we do. And then finally, with directory processing, this is a little bit of a kind of a nice to have, but we can generate artifacts that either you can use as part of an email, the body of an email for HTML, or you can send off basically to a third party, or not a third party, but any given endpoint with an upload URL specified, so you can then do some analysis or unzip it and use it, throw it into like Kibana or Grafana or whatever it is. Continuing on with this, data exports and reports, same basic thing. The list of files at the bottom are basically what you're always going to be able to see. Hopefully that is relatively legible, but a handful of files with metric information and results from the Playwright test. When we do look at the general reporting, the main thing that we do have that's going to be driving a lot of our information and a lot of the utility are the film strip and the video. I think Sergey loves dealing with the film strip and having that interact with the waterfall. Waterfall is built off the HAR file. HAR file is a HTTP archive format. It's standard. You can drop it into DevTools if you want to use a third party or the Chrome or even Firefox-based visualizations. And then a handful of other metrics via like console and resources, etc. To speak towards the metrics collection, Chrome Web Vitals being very important. We can't, since it is a synthetic tool, we don't have interaction to next paint. So that should almost always be 0 until we enable scripting, and even then it might be a little bit difficult to get properly. So with all that said, moving into a couple of ways we think that Telescope can help you on your performance journey. First of which, CI/CD integration. Since it is a CLI tool, you can run it from a GitHub action. Whenever somebody wants to merge in domain, you can go out, build things, pull it down, have it run, and store those artifacts for comparison later. Similarly, third-party audits. With this, as you're blocking domains, as you are overriding DNS values, you can basically configure and how your site may act differently with slightly different URLs that are being pulled down or requests being made. And so you can actually, again, block off all of your ads. And then similarly, regression testing. This kind of goes hand in hand with the CI/CD. Make sure you're not going slower. And then, so again, performance benchmarking. One of the main things with this over time is trending can be very important when you're doing performance analysis. Best to see over time whether or not you're slightly ticking up as a trend or if you were hopefully slightly ticking down. All right, and moving on to telescopetest.io. Telescopetest.io is going to be the landing page and the open site that we have for general analysis, the ability to run tests from anywhere in the world, and it just doesn't require you to set up Telescope or Telescope Web. A couple of notes on how we're building it. We wanted it to be fast. I think everybody that was top of mind when we were deciding how we wanted to build it. React came up. Sergey said no. Everybody said no. We settled on Astro Build. There was a couple of reasons for this. We started talking about it on a Wednesday. We had a meeting with a couple of folks on Thursday. Friday, we found out that Cloudflare had acquired Astro, and the decision seemed pretty well in hand. So we went with Astro. It is very good and it is very fast. So it's not just we own it, we should use it. It is actually a very appropriate meta framework to use. This is what it does look like now. The colors and the layout and everything will change, but it is up and ready to go. Right now, it's just basically a landing page with defining all of the options that you can configure and a link to the GitHub page. So let's go over to a demo. Okay, so as I mentioned at the very beginning, quick start. I went to cnn.com, npx.url. It will, by default, run Chrome. It'll just kind of churn through, get some data. This is not always the most exciting part of anything, but it does wrap up pretty quickly. You get a test ID that is unique in several different ways. This is actually the results of a performance report from an earlier test. This one was, I think, also was actually against Cloudflare.com. But this is what I mentioned earlier about the HTML output. You can embed this directly into an email. There's no external dependencies, and it just does show off kind of everything that does get collected. Does have a reasonably nice looking waterfall that is significantly longer than it probably should be. And then it just basically goes through all of the areas in which, or all of the files, and displays anything from the metrics to the console. The config is about the only thing that doesn't get shown. Next up, this is the web UI that we're building, or we're basing some of our build off of. This is not final. This is going to change. Hopefully it'll look far prettier. It will likely have Cloudflare orange and Cloudflare blue and white, but for now it's just there was a lot of AI vibe coding done to get some of this stuff done in a short amount of time. So it did not do so good on the styles. Basic overview pages. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. As I mentioned, it is beta or preview at best, and just to show essentially how much data we are getting back and what we can show that is going to be of hopefully useful for everyone. The waterfall right now is, as normal, does have one of the things that we are looking very much to ensure that we do have is being able to show and highlight the critical path for a page load, just because that's a lot of times where you want to focus a lot of your performance efforts. But like any other waterfall, it just has waterfall data. When you are selecting the different requests, it will pop up the further in-depth request response data. You can close that out, do a comparison if you'd like. And then a couple of things up at the top too that we think are the most interesting part for a summary. Console, pretty straightforward as far as what it should be. Console, full console messages. The resources kind of similarly to what we have for the waterfall. This is, again, all of the resources that have been loaded for the page. You will be able to get a little bit more in depth versus just the list. Nothing really beyond that couple of bits of information. Right now, the bottlenecks is kind of a work in progress and a discussion that we are having about what might be important to highlight here. Longest requests, largest requests, blocking resources is certainly going to be a part of focus, and then ideally having pie charts that do have proper data in them. And finally, the config, and we'll be allowing you to edit and rerun the test through advanced settings or just the basic test through, again, the advanced settings. So that is it for the demo. So does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns for what we're building for Telescope?
Thank you. Great presentation. So I know it's early in the process, but what are the plans for the killer features against like all-time tools like Puppeteer, for instance? Like what would make me to switch from, let's say, Puppeteer to Telescope?
I think I'm actually going to kick this one over to Sergey. He's probably going to have a better idea of the limitations and the benefits.
Okay, first of all, it's worth saying that it's based on Playwright already, right? So, and our goal is to also introduce scripting, so you would be able to do all of that. Right now, unlike regular Puppeteer or Playwright that you use, this one also already collects all the performance metrics, right? So you don't need to build them yourself. If you want to build everything from scratch, I mean, it's not complicated software, we just wrote it. But otherwise, it's very close to what you could instrument manually yourself. Yeah. After all, we chose Playwright to not write it ourselves. One more question?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm curious, if I'm on like a Linux machine or a Windows machine, I don't know if there are Safari versions that you can install there. How would it handle testing Safari if you're not on a Mac OS?
It uses WebKit, which I believe is available for Linux and Windows.
Yeah, I believe definitely for Windows and I believe for Linux as well. Yeah. So it's a, yeah, by the way, you're not, even on Mac, you don't get actual Safari, you get the WebKit build. Safari, you cannot do that with Safari native. But it is latest build that Playwright supports. So it's as close as anybody can get to Safari.
All right. Oh, a couple more.
Oh, sorry.
While you're walking back, I will go through the last two slides that I have. The first one is just of, if it goes to the next, what you can do, use it, submit PRs, issues, and tell us what you want. And finally, thank you, and time for questions.
So my question is kind of about the device type. It seemed like that was, or oh, you could ask it how would this perform on a Samsung Galaxy. Is that available for like different like strengths of laptop? Right, like I have a 96 gigabyte M3 Max, but my users probably don't. Is there a way of simulating less power on
Yes. So we do have two ways to throttle right now. We don't have a memory limit, I don't believe. That would actually be a pretty good idea to look into going forward. But we do have CPU throttle, so if nothing else, you can cut back, by some factor that your 84 gigahertz processor is going. You can do, go down by 15 and have it at 5 gigahertz.
Yeah, I believe you did not mention the fact that it also switches to the touch UI, right?
Yeah.
Said it's not real person, so it probably doesn't matter as much, but in the evaluation. But, and frankly, like, you get everything that Playwright allows you to emulate.
So as you guys are building the UI, you're moving from running it on a user's local to a cloud somewhere. We have something similar at my work, and we found that when we're doing like a GitHub Actions, we have so many more failures. How, like when the URL launches and some of them work, some of them don't work, like with the results at the end, how are you guys handling that issue?
Right now, by not implementing it yet. So we are pre-problem, which I think is a good place to be. With GitHub Actions, I've had mixed experiences with them, and I've had quite a few issues trying to get them to run smoothly and reliably. As we do look to build out that portion where you can integrate easily where we provide the GitHub action, we will hopefully have some of those issues resolved for reliability. But right now I couldn't tell you how we're going to do it. Cross our fingers, probably.
I can probably say that we're not going to be using CI runners necessarily. You don't have to use CI runner to have the actual environment. You can trigger it from CI, but it doesn't have to run in CI, right? So that's how we probably going to solve it, but it's up to you.
As a note, probably at some point in time we'll make it deployable to a container. That's in the future. Again, pre-problem.
So I have one question and actually one idea that may save a lot of time, nerves, and everything for the developers. I'll actually start with the idea. You show that you have some device presets. It would be very helpful when you build a UI to have the devices with the actual presets of the browsers, especially for iPhones. Not many people, well, maybe not even everyone here knows that, for instance, Chrome on iPhones is not actually Chrome, it's a WebKit. So imagine just testing something on the Android Chrome, trying to understand why it doesn't work on the real device. So that would help a lot. And the question is, you're Cloudflare, how does it work with Cloudflare Antibot?
Well, we have an exemption that we're basically internally applying for. We had to go through our full security process to say, this is a bot, it's a good bot, don't block this bot. So we've had to go through the same process as anyone external.
And they can add, even outside of being at Cloudflare, making sure your synthetic bots do not get blocked by your bot detection, no matter which vendor you use for either of those, is a part of setting up your synthetic testing, and reminds me of whack-a-mole game sometimes, but it is a challenge, for sure.
I guess this is like a question or an idea, maybe you even thought about it, but does Telescope support testing browsers with certain extensions installed?
You can do that via Playwright. I don't believe we've exposed it to pass into Playwright, but there's no particular technical challenge to that, I don't think. But it has actually come up before, but it is a very good idea because, yeah, again, blocking ads. Sorry, I don't.
We love ads. I have a question for you, Mike. Why did you not show any JSON beauty that we had developed that you can capture? Because all you've seen is the UI, but you can use all of the data, right?
Yeah.
It's not a leading question in any way.
So let me think I can do this. Give me 1 second to show some of this beautiful JSON. Why didn't I? Honestly, I don't find JSON to be that readable or technically that interesting, but let's see.
Who doesn't like the binary form?
Who doesn't like the binary format?
Why isn't it XML?
So this is the HAR file.
He's making fun of me.
It is.
What I meant is, can you show the list of those files,
Yeah.
basically to show like what everybody in the room can build if they want, like anything specific?
Yeah. So the config that we save is literally the configuration that has been that drives or initiates the test, and that's what if you wanted to rerun, we will eventually give you the ability to provide a config for repeatability. You don't have to do it all on the command line if you don't want to. So that's where the config is coming. The console.json, similarly, it's what Playwright outputs for what actually got written to the console. Metrics, these are things like layout shifts. I think it has LCP, FCP, some other paints. I forget exactly which, all of the different metrics in here, but you can use this for, I think it's just first request or root request. The HAR file, which has everything. The resources JSON is more of a specialized kind of per request network performance level things. And then finally our screenshot. This one is not that exciting. I think that may have been a failed test, so I chose unwisely on that. Yeah, those are all the files that will always be available to you.
Is there any built-in functionality to run this between runs?
No. It is multi-run comparison is something that we are looking at. I think it'll be a longer-term set of features that we need to put together because there are quite a few things to, I think, consider when it comes to diffing runs, how you overlay, like anything from overlaying film strips to video, etc.
Definitely on the roadmap.
Yes.
And it's open source. Did Mike mention it's open source?
Yeah, you're welcome to help out.
PRs are welcome, reviewed very quickly.
What license?
Apache 2.
Sergey is actually a pretty nice reviewer, if you're not me.
It might take time though, depending on the size of your commit, so. Size of them small, might not frequent. Okay. Any more questions for Mike?
This might be a dumb question, but this is made for also local development as well. Like if you're running a site locally, so local host site. So does your port of 3000 uptick when 3000 is already
Yeah, it should. I think this one is using Vite for local
Okay.
hosting or local serving. So I think Vite automatically knocks up to the next available port.
We might not use Vite eventually, we might use something else, but yeah, we will.
As a general note, right now we're doing a lot of development that will make it easily deployable to your own personal Cloudflare hosted site or Cloudflare workers. So you can use all of our stuff and run it in the cloud, or in our cloud, as it were.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.